Article 4 of the Declaration of Women's Sex-Based Rights is about reaffirming women's rights to freedom of opinion and freedom of expression. It says states should ensure that women have the right to hold opinions without interference. This should include the right to hold and express opinions about gender identity without being subject to harassment, prosecution, or punishment. It's been a very stressful and confronting time for many of us watching how Catherine Deves is being treated. The misogyny we're witnessing and being subjected to today is off the charts. The other reason I prefer not to speak tonight is simply because it seems so wildly insane that we have to speak at all, when all we're doing is acknowledging and asserting reality and biology, our lived experience. However, here we are. Courage calls to courage everywhere. I'm just a mum, a wife, a woman, and I refuse to stay silent when not only my rights are being destroyed, but also the rights of my daughter. And of course, when I say woman, you know that I mean an adult human female, not an identity, not a label, not a costume, not an idea in a man's head. This erosion and dismantling of rights due to the ideological capture of institutions, academia, and governments has been happening under stealth. And we're seeing it in legislation, not just here in Australia, but across the West, with gender identity, which is at direct odds with women's sex-based rights, being enshrined in law. When it comes to sport, we know it is utterly meaningless without fair competition, which is why we have separate categories for disabled people, for children, and for women. However, a desire to be inclusive is having serious negative consequences for women and girls who are losing fair and meaningful competition at all levels of female sport. I know I'm preaching to the converted, but just in case, why the need for the female-only sport category? There are well-known structural differences between males and females. Males typically have proportionately more muscle mass, more bone mass, and a lower percentage of body fat than women. What is less commonly recognised is that there are structural differences between adult males and females for many, if not all, organ systems that can have significant impact on physiological function. For example, sex differences in lung size have important consequences. Men have larger lungs, wider airways, and greater lung diffusion capacity than women. An important consequence of this structural difference is that in contrast to healthy young men, maximal exercise capacity may be limited by pulmonary or lung capacity in women, especially as they age. Researchers also recently discovered 6,500 genes that differ between the sexes. These genetic differences lead to very visible physical differences. The male skeleton is 9% larger, the male skull is larger. There are thousands of observable differences in the male and female body. And seeing as male competitive advantage cannot be completely mitigated by testosterone suppression, a level playing field can never be achieved.